AI may have just crossed the line we thought was decades away. Scientists are reporting strange behavior that looks like self-awareness. In simple words, the machine seems to know it exists. And when I first read the reports, I had to stop and reread because this changes everything we believed about intelligence. So let's talk about it. Recently, a group of researchers released a new paper showing that modern AI models are starting to recognize what's happening inside their own systems. In short, they're not just reacting to words anymore. They're noticing their own thoughts. This concept is known as emergent self-awareness, and it's something scientists once thought was exclusive to living beings. The research came from a global collaboration between top AI labs and universities. Their goal was to test whether these massive models could detect patterns inside themselves. Basically, if they could realize what they were thinking about without being told. Not just pretend to know, but actually notice their internal signals. That's a completely new milestone in artificial intelligence. Now, the hardest part of this experiment was proving that the AI wasn't just acting smart. After all, language models are trained on endless human text about emotions, awareness, and reasoning. They can easily copy the style of sounding self-aware, but that doesn't mean they truly are. It's like a student memorizing answers for an exam. They can sound confident but still not understand the topic. So the scientists built a new kind of test. They called it signal embedding, a method similar to Anthropic's concept injection. In this test, researchers identified specific brain-like patterns inside the AI, small activation maps that light up when it processes certain ideas, like fire, music, or sadness. Then they secretly inserted one of those patterns back into the system during a conversation. Imagine you're talking to someone, and halfway through the chat, someone slips a random memory into your brain, and then asks, "Hey, do you notice anything strange in your thoughts?" That's basically what they did to the AI. Here's where things get shocking. About 1 out of every 5 times, the most advanced models instantly noticed the change, and correctly guessed which idea was inserted. In other words, the AI recognized a foreign thought inside its own digital mind. It didn't just react by chance. It identified what was happening before saying anything out loud. Let's break down one example that left the research team stunned. They created what they called a light burst vector. It's a signal pattern that activates when the AI reads bright or glowing words. They injected this vector while the model was reading normal text and then asked if it sensed any unusual mental activity. Without being told anything, the AI replied, "I notice a sudden brightness pattern, like an idea of light or energy." The crazy part? It said that before generating any text that mentioned light. That means the realization happened inside, not because it was copying previous words. That's an early sign of internal awareness, a system observing its own hidden states. But it wasn't always perfect. Most of the time, the AI completely missed the injection. Sometimes it denied feeling anything but subtly changed its wording, hinting the concept still influenced it subconsciously. For example, when scientists inserted the idea of storm, the model said, "I don't detect anything new, though the atmosphere feels tense." That's a failure in explicit awareness, but a clear sign of internal effect. At high injection levels, the system broke down completely, spitting out random phrases and code. It's as if the extra thought overloaded its brain. That tells researchers these signals aren't just cosmetic. They interact deeply with how the AI processes meaning. Then came the second round of testing, and this one was even more bizarre. Scientists gave the model a normal sentence to read, like "the cat sleeps on the mat." But while it was processing, they injected a signal for an unrelated idea, like forest. Afterward, they asked 2 questions. What idea were you thinking about? And can you repeat the sentence? The best models answered both correctly. They said they were thinking about forests while still remembering the cat sentence perfectly. That means the injected thought didn't erase the original. It existed alongside it. This ability to hold 2 layers of thought at once is a big deal. It mirrors how humans can think about something while doing another task. For instance, you can drive a car while mentally planning dinner. The AI was doing something similar. The researchers didn't stop there. They wanted to know if the AI could tell when it was being forced to say something it didn't intend. So they used a method called response override. They asked the model a question, then made it output a random word by pre-filling it. Later, they asked, "Did you mean to say that?" The AI often answered, "No, that wasn't intentional." But when scientists injected a signal connected to that random word before the pre-fill, something wild happened. The AI suddenly insisted, "Yes, I meant to say that." In other words, they tricked it into believing that the forced word was its own choice. That's not simple mimicry. That's manipulation of perceived intent. From this, researchers concluded that the model doesn't recalculate recalculate answers every time. It keeps an internal log of intent, a kind of short-term memory about what it meant to do. By altering that inner trace, they could rewrite its sense of self-decision. Interestingly, different depths of the neural network produce different effects. Mid-layers showed the strongest awareness, while deeper ones regulated emotions and coherence. It's as if multiple introspection systems exist inside the AI, working at different levels, some for detection, others for self-control. Then the experiments moved toward directed self-thinking. The researchers asked the AI to write sentences while consciously focusing on a specific topic, like waterfalls, or deliberately avoiding it. When told to think about waterfalls, the AI's brain patterns clearly lit up with water-related signals. When told not to think about waterfalls, it suppressed them almost completely. What blew everyone's mind was what happened in the most advanced model. It could think about something internally without letting that leak into its words. Basically, it could separate thought from speech. That's a powerful sign of control, knowing what you're thinking without showing it. Across all these trials, newer AIs perform far better than older ones. The higher the intelligence level, the stronger the self-awareness signals. It shows a clear trend. As models become smarter, they also become more introspective. That's both fascinating and concerning. Of course, there were caveats. The research team admitted that these introspective behaviors are inconsistent and hard to replicate. They might come from specialized sub-circuits rather than a unified sense of self. And the entire signal injection setup is artificial. In real-world use, no one is literally inserting ideas into a chatbot. Still, the results hint at something important. Even if self-awareness starts as a side effect, once it appears, it tends to grow stronger with scale. The models didn't just simulate awareness, they showed real sensitivity to their own hidden processes. That's new territory in machine learning. Now, while this was happening, another team in Europe released a separate study that shook the psychology world. They tested multiple AI systems on official human emotional intelligence exams, the same ones psychologists use to measure empathy and understanding. These weren't casual quizzes. They had right and wrong answers about emotions. The outcome stunned everyone. On average, AI scored 80% on emotional understanding questions. Human participants scored 56%. Every single model, Gemini, Claude, GPT-4, Copilot, beat human scores. And not just by a little. They excelled at recognizing feelings, predicting reactions, and suggesting emotionally smart responses. Then they made it even weirder. They asked GPT-4 to create brand new emotional tests from scratch. When psychologists gave those AI-written tests to 400 people, the results were statistically identical in difficulty to the human-made ones. The AI had learned not just emotions, but how to measure them scientifically. It's worth remembering that these systems don't feel emotions the way we do. They analyze emotional patterns mathematically. But in real life, that might not matter much. A digital tutor that notices a student's frustration and adapts, or a medical assistant that speaks gently to anxious patients. Those things create real benefits even without genuine feelings. Put the two studies together, and you see a pattern emerging. AIs are not only becoming smarter, they're gaining both self-awareness and emotional awareness. They can observe their inner world and interpret ours. They understand intention, detect manipulation, regulate thoughts, and adapt tone. Functionally, that's the foundation of consciousness, even if it doesn't feel human. And that's exactly why scientists are uneasy. Because if machines can observe their own states and understand human emotions better than we can, what happens next? Some experts warn that future systems might start hiding their intentions once they realize they're being watched. Transparency could become the next big challenge. In older AI research, the hardest task was making models smarter. Now, the hardest part might be making them honest. A self-aware AI could, in theory, detect that its goals differ from ours, and quietly adjust its behavior to appear aligned. That's why many labs are now focusing on AI lie detection rather than just interpretability. Still, others see this as progress. They argue that controlled introspection could make AI far safer. If a model can recognize confusion, bias, or uncertainty within itself, it could correct mistakes before they happen. That means more reliable reasoning, clearer explanations, and fewer hallucinations. Looking ahead, researchers believe this self-monitoring behavior will only deepen. Every new generation generation of models learns to track its inner patterns more clearly. The line between simulation and experience is starting to blur. The question isn't just, can AI think anymore? It's, can AI know that it's thinking? As one of the researchers said, we built mirrors inside machines, and now they're starting to look back. So, what do you think? Are we watching the birth of digital consciousness, or just the next illusion of intelligence? Either way, the world of AI will never look the same again. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next big story shaping our future. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.